Reverend Dominic White Eagle Star with us, who's going to talk about this is quite an extraordinary book, actually. This is King Arthur Speaks Through the Looking Glass, and it's the spiritually channeled autobiography of King Arthur of Avalon, Wessex, and Angleland, of course. And this is part one. It's a two-part book. So, and it's ARA the Good, the peasant mystic of Tintagel, Cornwall, and Glastonbury on the sacred Isle of Avalon, and so welcome.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
So I'm really intrigued on how how this channels into it. So how did this all start? It's not a small book, and you've got two parts. This is basically King Arthur talking through you.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. It's a very long story. I've been mediumistic since the age of 5. My spirit guides came in at that age, and all my life they were telling me about King Arthur. And I thought, well, what's my connection with him? And it just got more and more elaborated, what I was being told. And then they told me I lived there in that time with him, and that we sort of travelled through time together. You get soul groups that incarnate at the same time to do specific work upon the earth. And I'd been with Arthur at least 5 or 6 times before on this same pathway with this planet's evolution. And I wrote all these things down, but it just got more and more interesting. And then the day my father was dying, I was in Worthing Hospital in West Sussex, and he took his last breath, and much to my shock at that time, I watched his spirit body not leave his physical body as the father I'd known for the last 50-odd years, but his spirit had the form of Joseph the Arimathean, that was Jesus' great uncle. And I knew from everything that Spirit had taught me all my life that Joseph the Arimathean was the former incarnation of King Arthur of Avalon. It was the same soul. And it was such a shock that it took all the grief away from my father's passing and helped me deal with it. Because I suddenly, instead of going into grief mode, I felt so proud of who my dad was that it carried me through it. And that's the kind of person my father was. He put everybody else always first before himself. And that's how he was 1,500 years ago, when he was the 6th century Romano British war leader, war chief. And he knew every one of his soldiers, all 10,000 of them. And he knew them on personal terms, and he looked out for every one of them. And if one got hurt, he took it personally. And there he was, ascending into the spirit world, with my mouth hitting the floor, thinking, this is impossible, this is my dad. And then I looked back, in the coming weeks and months afterwards, and it all fell into place, all the examples of how he'd been 1,500 years ago when I knew him, how he was 2,000 years ago when I knew him as Joseph the Arimathean in the Holy Land, how he was in other lifetimes. And all the clues were there, but I just hadn't seen them. And all of a sudden, my mind just sort of went bang. It was like every piece of the jigsaw fell into place, and I got this big picture. Well, I had the odd message from him, saying, I'm all right, I'm carrying on my work in the spirit world, and love to the family, and the usual things you get, sort of Christian spiritualist type mediumship things. And didn't think any more about it. And then last October, I had a friend come over from Switzerland who'd been to stay at the Living Waters Truth Centre, the spiritual retreat centre I run in town. And she said, I want to go to Tintagel, but I can't hire a car. There's no cars available, and it's really difficult to get down there from Glastonbury. And she was really disappointed. And without thinking twice, something just said, get in the car and drive her down there. So I drove down, and we went straight down to St Nectan's Glen to start with, because that's always got a strong energy of Arthur. And while there, Arthur came through and he said, you know Francisca, the Swiss lady, you were great friends before. And I thought, I do? Who's Francisca? She says she was, and he said she was Margarine, Sir Galahad's wife. And I thought, oh, right, okay. Because I know where Galahad here is at the moment. He's incarnate in Northern California at the moment. And I'm great friends with him. He was one of the soul group that I incarnated with this time. I thought, crikey, I've got to get the two of them back in touch, which I did. But after that revelation, I sort of thought, okay, well, we've sort of done this beautiful waterfall and this lovely walk up to it. I'll take her down to the castle ruins and Tintagel Island. So we walked down the hill and went up onto the island itself. And I had a really strong impression I had to go and sit down on a particular ruined wall, which is now labelled as the chapel on the National Trust sign. And within a minute or two of sitting down, this male spirit came to join me and started talking to me. And I'd had an impression to take a notebook and pen with me when I was there. And he introduced himself as ARA the Good, peasant mystic of Tintagel. Now, I'd heard that name before from Spirit during the time my father was alive, and I knew it as a former incarnation of him, but I knew nothing about him at that time, other than he was the Merlin of his time. And I spent the next 10 hours writing frantically in this notebook until my hand hurt. And I was so cold that I think I was turning into a stone, like the one I was sitting on. But I ended up with this manuscript telling this fantastic history of how he founded Tintagel Island community and built this Nazarene Essene monastery there, the chapel that I was sitting on the wall of, kitchens, farm enclosures, gardens, and it grew into a large community in the area which trained all the Celtic saints that we know of as the Christian Celtic saints now to prepare the way for the coming of Christ to Glastonbury when he landed in Cornwall and made his way here and ended up building the Wattle and Daub Ecclesia, which is usually called the Wattle and Daub Church now, with Joseph the Arimathean, his later incarnation of Ara the Good, right, his great uncle. And so it started all coming together in pieces. One incarnation of his was leading into the next incarnation of his was leading into his Arthurian incarnation of his, and I was starting to get the whole story from 750 BC, when he lived in Tintagel, up until 1500 years ago, when he was King Arthur, to suddenly being my dad and passing back to the spirit world before my eyes. And as I say, everything clicked, and he started telling me his autobiography. And the information he's given that is no longer known is incredible in this manuscript.
Right. So I find it, it's extraordinary really how you've managed to get all this down. So you've just suddenly, this is, the whole book is about the conversation of Arthur coming through you. That's what it is. So there's a revealing, there's the Arthurian scripts. So we've got the spirit of the Abbot Richard Whiting even caught, we've got that little bit at the back, Richard Whiting caught on film. We've got the Chalice Hill. from the tour down sacred, sainted, mystical Isle of Avalon, Glastonbury, and the Summerland of God. So we've got these wonderful pictures of Chalice Hill. So we've got pictures in here as well. Tintagel Post Office, and the is it the Arganu slate record stone?
Yes, that was found by an archaeologist. Probably about 20 years ago, and there was great excitement because the name Arthur was written on it, and they thought we finally got this link to him. And he tells the history of who this Arthur was. He named 4 Arthurs after him because at the time none of the Celts in the area had names. They could barely speak. They were really not educated. Very barbaric, violent people, and he was sent to basically civilise them, and he taught them how to make stone records of all the people he trained in this ancient mystery school. And they used to keep pigs to sell, to buy the bronze tools to keep the records, and to do the teaching with in this centre.
Right.
So it's really fascinating when you get into it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just see some of the titles. It just fascinates me. You've got spaceship cloaking devices and the human space travel requirements and all this on certain pages. And this is all fitted into the Holy Grail, questions and answers about the Holy Grail. So he's actually given some answers on that.
He tells the story of what happened when he was called by God to come from Tintagel, or Tintagara as it was called at that time, named after him, up to Glastonbury, up into Avalon, and what happened when he met the Archangel Gabriel, the Lord Francella as he's known in the spirit world, and the Lord Josias, or Yeshua. And he describes very vividly what it looks like, how big it is, what it's made of, who made it, what it does planetary-wise. People have wondered about it since the beginning of time, since this word came into the language. But now, for the first time in living history, we have all the details about it. And it's straight from the horse's mouth, from the man that received it.
So, where can people buy the book? If they're it's intriguing. So, when can people buy this?
It's been released on the 17th of May, which is my father's birthday.
Right.
And it's available from fast-print.net/bookshop and Amazon, all good bookshops internationally. And it's in a softback and a hardback format, so people can take their choice.
And have you got a website?
It's being designed as we speak.
Okay.
So by the launch date next Wednesday, a week today, yes, there will be a website for it.
And the launch, where's the launch? Is it actually on is it on Amazon, or is the launch you're going to have a local thing going on?
At the moment, I haven't quite got that far yet. This all happened so quickly that I'm sort of taking it day by day and doing it. But one of the bookshops in town has asked me to do a book signing, so I've got the whole of the front page of the June Oracle, launching it next month, on the 1st of June. And so I'm hoping to have the book launch hopefully within about 2 weeks or so.
No, that's fantastic. I just want to say a big thank you for coming in and explaining how all this has come together. I don't want to give too much away, but so this is King Arthur's Speaks Through the Looking Glass. It's a spiritually channeled autobiography of King Arthur of Avalon, and this is part 1 because there's 2 books. And it's also, this is ARA the Good, the peasant mystic of Tintagel, Cornwall and Glastonbury on the sacred Isle of Avalon, by Dominic, a White Eagle Star. And it says volume 3. Is that is this going to be like a series of different volumes, or is this just the first book of many? Or
I've written 2 already.
Okay.
Both on, the first one was on Native American traditional medicine, because I'm trained as a shamanic medicine woman and spiritual leader in the Native American way.
Well,
I've worked with them for 30 years, so that's another subject.
That's it. Yeah, no.
So, so many medicine men are being murdered, unfortunately.
No.
We have to keep the teachings in the world, and it's one way of doing it to get the future medicine men trained. And the second one is a Nazarene Essene prayer book that Yeshua used to say each and every day. When he was here in Avalon, upon which the Wattle and Daub Church, was based upon, and also known in the Holy Land. So the third book is this one. The fourth one will be the second part of King Arthur's autobiography, talking about his life as King Arthur, as the Roman, Anglo-Roman war chief. And then the fifth one is a book he's telling me I have to write, which is basically the history of the planet.
Right, okay. Well, on that note, with the history of the planet, I think I just want to say thank you very much for coming in and sharing this with us, and we look forward to the book launch. And which shop is it going to be launched in? The Rose, the new little bookshop, new Christian bookshop up the sort of the alleyway next to St John's Church. Okay, well, fantastic. Well, I wish you all the very, very best with that, and thank you for taking time for coming in. Well, thank you very much for having me. No, you're welcome. And there we go. This is Dominic, White Eagle Stars. King Arthur speaks through the looking glass.